tries to mug you? What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Good? Yeah, good.
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun. Before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Jackbooty cops in riot gear. Gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun. Before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. You got a riot in the streets.
Riot in the streets, ladies and gentlemen. It's getting to be that time. It is Tuesday. We are live. This is PrimerTime on UTY.tv. My name is Michael, and I'm not buying the bullshit. Nick is off doing stuff tonight, so I have a special guest co-host tonight, Mr. Frank from Spam Radio, that airs tomorrow night at, what time is that, 6 p.m.?
No, 8 p.m. every Wednesday.
8 p.m. every Wednesday. I don't know. I don't do the time. Frank, good to have you here, man.
Thank you. I just wanted to tell the audience. Originally, you're gonna. I asked you to be a guest tomorrow on Spam because I wanted to get your. I wanted to do it last week, but I ran out of time. I wanted to get your expertise on the situation, and so Michael will be on Spam tomorrow. We'll have him on. So now he asked me to co-host tonight, and I didn't want to turn down the chance to be on live radio.
Live radio is kind of fun. This is like cheap heroin, and
oh yeah,
Jules is the hookup.
People don't understand. When you press that button, that's it. It's the audience. You know, you could either be great, mediocre, or embarrass yourself, but you got to do it in 3, 2, 1, go.
That's it. That's it. And there is no call, no show. So anyhow, yeah, a lot of stuff going on in the last week. Last week, Nick and I, we kind of had to address the Las Vegas thing. We both kind of see some inconsistencies that showed up rather early, but you almost have to look at some of those rather early inconsistencies as problems in reporting and eyewitnesses and stuff like that. Right. As it goes on, it's getting stinkier and stinkier and stinkier. And I have a feeling that nobody's buying it anymore.
Well, yeah. Now, of course, now that people are becoming woke, as they say, we have the internet. But like I always say, and I say this on my on Spam every week, the internet is both good and bad. It's a double-edged sword. It's good for information, but also there's so much information and misinformation, some intentional and some not intentional, that people get confused. So maybe for this episode we could cut down the weeds and cut the fat and see what we could come up with.
Let's take a high vantage point and look at the situation, so to speak. That's something I've found that nobody's really commenting on. Is well, I'm of a certain age, and I'll be honest with you, I've had LASIK surgery done, so I can see without glasses. But even with that, I sort of have I guess it's common with people who have LASIK, your night vision sort of goes. But even so, people's eyes, generally in this day and age, with a whole lot of exposure to screens and fluorescent lights and CRT screen, monitors and stuff, vision tends to go. And so I find the fact that a 64-year-old man from about 350 feet up in the air firing across, let's say, I don't know, like the distance has been, various, like, so let's just say about 750 feet is about the average of the distance that I've heard.
Let's say 2 football fields.
Okay, 2 football fields. In the dark and making repeated double taps in people's heads, I find that to be extremely suspect. In moving targets in heads.
Well, hold on. Let's want to keep it simple. Listen, he had a big mass target to fire on, so it's not like he was
I mean, he was shooting the fish in the barrel analogy. Right. I understand that. But even if you were to shoot fish in a barrel like that, you're not going to hit the same fish twice in the noggin.
Well, it could happen. They may fall, and the rabbit.
And you're not No, it ain't going to happen like that. It don't happen like that.
Well, is it confirmed? Is there confirmed? There's been people with double head wounds.
Yep, I've seen a couple of reports saying it. I'll tell you what, this whole thing really totally fell apart for me yesterday. I mean, I kind of had some like sneaking suspicions on it, and I mean, it's kind of grown into a situation that I totally don't believe, and I think in the end the goal isn't anything other than gun control. Is what's being focused on.
Well, our job should be, for the sake of this episode, our job is, anybody is to question. It's okay to question.
Absolutely, I don't believe none of the bullshit. And yesterday I saw an Instagram video, and I shared it with a couple of people, where there was 2 distinct, different rifles firing, and in fact, there was one long burst. And that's what everybody says is a belt-fed weapon or whatever. I'm not going to jump to that. I can't make that kind of determination. But it's a long continuous burst. Okay. But in the middle of that long continuous burst, there's a different burst that happens that's shorter, and it has a different tone. And it's not only shorter, it ends before that first long burst started. So it's a completely separate second shooter, or that old man picked up another gun.
Okay, yeah, and I just want to make it clear.
That's bullshit, because if he had 2 bump fire stocks, the object du jour, number one, it takes 2 hands to operate a bump fire stock, because what you have to do is you have to put your hand on the trigger guard, and then the way the little thingy works, there's a little like shoulder on it that you rest your finger on, and then you pull the front of the rifle forward, and then that engages the trigger, and then that sets off the almost like the chain reaction, so to speak. So once you take your finger off or you take your left arm and you stop pulling forward and you pull backwards, it's not going to go again. It's not going to happen again. Okay. Well, and so you need 2 hands to do that with what they're saying that he used, and that's impossible. Okay. That's an absolute fucking impossibility. It's not possible. And then in the pictures, they show he had bipods. You can't get more than 10 rounds off with one of them things on a bipod for the same reason. You're changing the angle, and you're not actually providing that front tension. Right. So those things, there's a whole lot of like technical stuff on this that really stinks. Right.
I just want to make it clear, just for the sake of this episode, I'm going to be the devil's advocate. So I'm not. It's not that I don't believe or I'm not questioning. I just want to be the counterpoint. Okay. So don't.
That's cool. I'm not pulling nothing. Not pulling nothing out of nowhere.
Yeah. I want.
How bump stocks works, because I fired one. And what you end up doing with that is you tuck it into your shoulder, and then you don't. It's got a little. What it basically does is it replaces the pistol grip and the stock with like this 2-piece unit that kind of slides. There's no springs. There's no nothing in it, because the law states if you put a spring in something, you've now made a machine gun. Right. So this is designed like that. But to operate it, you pull that front of that rifle forward. and then the natural action of the recoil combined with you pulling it forward is what creates the slam fire effect.
Right, and then it
reconfigure
it so it becomes an automatic weapon.
No, not necessarily, because it's...
Or at least it mimics an automatic weapon, no?
I would say mimic would be a better word.
Yeah.
Not like... It's still not anywhere near the rate of fire of a real fully automatic weapon. And honestly, the military doesn't use any kind of full automatic weapon like at the individual soldier level, unless it's like some sort of like squad support weapon. Like the average soldier's M16 is not, or now it's an M4, an M4A3 or whatever the designation is now. But it's not full automatic. It's got a 3-round burst setting, so you fire either one bullet with one pull of the trigger, or you fire 3 bullets with one pull of the trigger. There's no holding it down and dumping an entire magazine.
Right. So let's cut to the bones. What we're being told is this guy Stephen Paddock. He was as you said, 64-year-old gentleman. According to, if you listen to the interview with his brother, this guy was what was he? He was it's real estate. He was a professional gambler. Now, let me ask you something. As a man who has experience with firearms, what this man allegedly did, what we're being told, is it possible for him to just pick up guns and start shooting these guns?
What do you mean, like purchase them, like from
Yeah. I'm saying a man who I just described, a man who has had no history of violence, military.
Absolutely, yeah. He's got nothing on his background. No,
this guy was a businessman, a hippie. He was
legally a model citizen.
Yes. He was
absolutely. He can go in. He goes in, walks in, determines which one he wants, fills out the yellow 4473 form, which goes right to the ATF. That firearms dealer will pick up the phone and he will call a number and give him all the information. He will say this guy's name, his date of birth, what he looks like, social security number, all that kind of stuff. And then that person on the phone will say yes or no.
Right. No, but
they don't know what kind of gun he bought.
Right. What I'm trying to get at is what we're being told is this guy was a elderly gentleman, real estate agent, made his money in real estate, now became a professional gambler, lived a life of leisure, no history. So the weapons he bought, which are described, are very pretty advanced, sophisticated weapons. I mean, you have to know your guns to buy these type of weapons, no?
Well, look, the AR-15 series is it's kind of a weird place because it's like America's rifle, and it really exploded in popularity in the last 15 years, just because of the sunset of the Clinton crime bill that came in, and the prices have been all over the board. And with something like that, you get a whole lot of competitors into the game. So there's a bunch of different manufacturers that make them now, and they can run from and not to mention they're made out of different materials. I mean, they're made from polymer all the way to titanium, and you've got so many different manufacturers with so many different products in that one general area that the prices, I mean, up until a couple of weeks ago, you could build one out brand new for $279. Now you could also go out and buy one of the top of the line, which this guy had a couple of those top of the line rifles.
Right. But that's what I'm saying.
Those are expensive. Those are $1,700-$1,800 bucks. That's not the gangbanger special, right?
Well, listen, I've maybe touched a gun once or twice in my life. I don't have knowledge of guns. If I was a real estate agent, professional gambler, a man who lived a life of leisure, you have to be educated on the types of different weapons this guy bought, right?
I find, he obviously had some sort of education on this because he stuck with what I've seen as the list of what they've recovered from the hotel room. He had higher end stuff that was all within basically the same family, and I can understand that as somebody who has multiple of one item. I can understand staying within that family and certain different features between, but they're all basically the same. What I did find to be interesting that out of all of this, they also threw in that he had the AK-47, the dreaded AK-47, which really hasn't been any kind of mention.
That's
it's
not even
about the Bushmaster and the AR-15.
That's not really sold. You can't purchase that. That you have to get that on the black market. That weapon's not even made in the United States.
Absolutely, they're made all over the United States.
So this is where I'm leading.
No, they make wait up. That's a misconception. The AK-47 in its select fire form, full of single shot or full automatic, is tougher than hell and more expensive than you want to imagine to get. But you can get a civilian clone all over the place. You can get one for right now they're probably about $650, and it's just a semi-automatic rifle. That's all it is.
I say that because I know about 10 years ago, I know someone who got arrested for having AK-47.
You are also in one of the gun control hellholes of the world. You were in New York State, right?
Right. Yes, and New York City.
You got all kinds of rules. AK-47s, AR-15s, it's harder than hell to get any of that stuff. I mean, your magazine limit. You can't have forward grips. You can't have pistol grips. I mean, they make special stocks for rifles that are New York legal.
Right.
So
no. Yeah.
That's a whole different subject when it comes to like guns. But everywhere else in the country that's fairly gun friendly, yeah. If you walk into a gun shop and they don't have an AK-47 for sale, it's kind of unusual.
Right. No. Yeah. I was quoting the cops. This is what my friend told me. Well, he's not my friend; he's an acquaintance. But he told me that the police were amazed that he was carrying around an AK-47. He was like, "Where?" They told him, "Where did you even get this? These are so hard to find." And that's what
I don't know. I mean,
I'm just quoting the cops.
I think they say that kind of stuff just to make you feel bad or something. They have that false outrage.
Right. So I'm reading this paragraph from the New York Times. At least 23 firearms, including a handgun, were found in Mr. Paddock's hotel suite, according to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Several rifles equipped with scopes, said Sheriff Joseph Lombardo of the police department, adding that Mr. Paddock used multiple rifles during the attack. Law enforcement officials said there were at least 20 rifles in the suite, along with hundreds of rounds of ammunition, including 2 rifles outfitted with scopes and set up on tripods in front of 2 big windows. Another official said the weapons were AR-15 style assault rifles. And then, of course, they recovered 19 more firearms and explosives and thousands of rounds of ammunition and an electronic device from his home. So,
but see, they use trigger words there, right?
Yeah.
They talk about thousands of rounds of ammunition. Well, straight up, dude, when I buy ammo, I don't buy less than 500 rounds at a time.
And if you don't,
I bought several thousand at one time and had it shipped right to my house.
Yeah, if you don't, they say 20 rifles and handguns, but all they mention by name is the AR-15, of course, because that's the buzzword. Right.
And I'm pretty kind of pretty much disgusted with how the media has handled this. I think
before we move on to the media, I want to just go back. So this man, real estate agent, a professional gambler, 64 years old, no history of anything. He had to have had knowledge of some education of firearms. And
does the dude have YouTube? I mean, seriously, does he have YouTube? Because you can just get on YouTube right now and how does an AR-15 work?
Okay.
And honestly, that's it. And Las Vegas Nevada's it's a western state that has a completely different mindset than the East Coast. There's plenty of gun rental ranges where that guy could probably go in. Now, this is a man with some means. He could walk in, say, I don't know a damn thing about the AR-15. Who can teach me about this rental unit? And flash a couple $100, and there'll be some boy in a baseball cap that goes out there and loads that man up 10, 20 magazines and lets him go and have fun and show him exactly how to do it. And in 2 hours, that dude's almost an expert with that rifle.
Okay, all right. So that's what I wanted to establish. This guy had to have had some firearm training some before he.
Well, and it could be as easy as he just went to the store and filled it out and filled out the paperwork and bought one and then drove his ass out into the desert and played with it until he figured it out.
Okay. Okay.
It's a weapon system that does. Yeah, it's not necessarily something you're going to throw at somebody who's never ever picked up a firearm before, and they'll maybe get one shot off. They may not. They definitely won't know how to fix any kind of issue that it may have, and like clear any kind of failure to fire and put it back into use. But other than that, it's a gun, pull the trigger kind of a thing. Yeah, it takes a little more training.
Okay, so this was premeditated because this obviously took some time before he went and actually purchased the guns, practiced with the guns, and then went ahead and set the date. Would you agree? Yes or no?
Well, I would have to say that it's
So
premeditated.
this guy didn't just wake
the
up.
fact that it's a pain in the ass. I mean, I've moved several rifles. I mean, sometimes I work at gun shows and stuff, and I mean, I've taken my own to sell, and I buy, sell, and trade and all that kind of stuff. And if you're going to buy a table at a gun show for the weekend, with the cost of getting a hotel room and the travel involved and all that, if you're going to sell more than one or two. So, like, I've had to carry in several at a time, and just getting them into your vehicle takes like a little bit of planning.
Right. So this guy just didn't wake up one morning, had a bad day, and said, you know what, I'm gonna go get my comp from the casino.
Like, have you seen any pictures of the room? I mean, like, those pictures are all over the net. And there's a picture of what shows his dead feet underneath a rifle that's on a bipod. And then you'll see like a stack of magazines.
I saw the shot. They showed a picture of him dead. His head. They showed the face shot of him dead and him bleeding out of his nose, and there was a pool of blood under his head.
Right. Okay. Well,
this was the famous.
There's a bunch of pictures of the magazines just to load that amount of magazines. Even if you're doing it the simple way, which is like, you bought bulk ammunition, bulk military ammunition, it comes with something called a stripper clip that you fit into the top of the magazine, and boom, with one slap of your hand, you can put 10 in. That's the fast way. In some of those magazines, he'd have to do that 10 times. That'd take him at least 2 minutes to do that. If he didn't, he was actually putting them in one bullet at a time, that dude's thumbs would be in massive pain to where he'd have to take like a week's rest just to recover.
Right. And the shooting allegedly occurred for 9 minutes.
Yeah, I find that interesting because it's always reported as anywhere from 9 to 11 minutes, and
okay.
I think that it's just kind of freaky how there's like symbolism all over in this.
Yeah. The 9/11. I know, of course, and of course, like I said. This is what I want to get to with all. Now it's mass conspiracy theories, and again, it's okay. Questions need to be asked. Questions need to be addressed. But to cut it.
I'll tell you what. Here's a question that I have that's really outstanding, and I actually dropped it in our little individual chat right there. Las Vegas Metro Police are reporting that the shooter's home, where they found those extra 19 or 23 or whatever the magic number is that gave him the grand total of 50 guns or whatever, his house was broken into.
Yeah,
I'm going to call absolute and total bullshit on that one as well. Just like when it happened in San Bernardino. I don't know if you remember that San Bernardino shooting that happened where the Muslim guy walked into whatever it was, mental health services or I don't know, women's reproductive or something like that, and shot it all up. And somebody broke into his house, and like the whole entire news world was there, like filming it. And they, well, it's okay. We already got all the stuff we needed out of there. There was his driver's license and all kinds of stuff they were filming. And
why would somebody?
These are like world-shaking events. Like, seriously, I work public service, dude, and I'm going to tell you what, there is like a checklist of shit you do, and if you got like a world-shaking like murder event like that, you put somebody on that dude's house. There's a cop car parked in front of that guy's house.
Right. Why would somebody break into his house?
somebody's either collecting souvenirs or dropping them off.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, just to address all these mass conspiracies, and if you watched, anybody's ever watched or remembered the movie JFK, made by Oliver Stone in the early '90s,
I saw that movie a bunch.
Yeah, there's a famous scene when Kevin Costner meets Donald Sutherland in the park. Donald Sutherland plays the character Mr. X, which Mr. X is based on real life person, Colonel Fletcher Prouty.
He's an amazing man. It's an amazing read on Mr. Fletcher.
Yeah,
Prouty.
I did a paper on his book. So in the movie, Mr. X, he tells Kevin Costner, how do you answer a conspiracy theory? It's not the who, where, when, but why. Why and who benefits from it? That's how you
absolutely.
That's
I think right now, all of that, it's exactly how you said. Why? And what do you see as the outcome for
why?
This?
No,
honestly, if I'm very involved in the firearms world, and I look at each one of these things that happens as an assault on my God-given right to self-protection, and I look at the difference between, let's say, this one and then the one in San Bernardino with the Muslim guy, and then that kid in Connecticut. It was 2.5 solid weeks of nothing but read the victims' names every hour.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Look at this montage of dead kids. Look at these victims over here.
Oh yeah.
And they are not talking about it anymore. I've seen nothing except for a 6-minute little fluff piece from the New York Times that was more actually gun control than any sort of memorial to the victims. It was all this, celebrity and local New York people outraged.
Who could forget Obama? When Sandy Hook happened, he was rubbing chili oil on his eyelid to get tears.
But now there's no focus on the victims, and I'm not going to go down into some rabbit hole of nobody got shot or anything, because honestly, I think the government is dirty as all hell, and they got no problem killing 50 people.
No.
If they got to kill 50 people, shit happens, man. Hey, look, we killed like 500,000 Iraqi kids because we didn't like Saddam because he wasn't playing the game anymore.
Right. Well,
so we killed 500,000 Iraqi kids. They're sure shooting they're going to kill a bunch of 50 people at a concert.
Listen,
I got no problem with that.
This is if this is carried out by criminal elements in the government, they rationalize it themselves and say, "Listen, they're not targeting specific people; they're just killing people at random." So it's not. That's how they justify it ethically in their minds. But we're going to answer the question: why and who does this benefit? So why would this happen? Why would it happen? Of course, so immediately we saw not the blood hadn't dried yet. People were still getting operated on, and we had a mass propaganda news push of gun control. We had Jimmy Kimmel with his fake crocodile tears on his late night show. By the way, he had me put in Twitter jail the other day because I made some disparaging remarks to him. But I've
been banned from Twitter for targeted harassment of an organization.
Yeah, I didn't say it. All I said was, my tweet was, because somebody asked why would he lie. I said because the feeble-minded eat up his fake tears like peas and carrots, and Twitter said it was against community standards. But anyway,
I think, to be honest with you, I think there's a little bit more to that, because I think Jimmy Kimmel's of the class of let's just say the class of people who are actively most pushing the gun control right now. They think that they are part of the elite, and
I'm sure
they're not against guns. Those people are not against guns. They're just against you and I having a gun.
Right. And listen, I'm sure. Listen, all these people on TV, trust me, they get their marching orders from somebody upstairs, because if you notice, everybody then starts talking about the same thing. And
you start looking at it, and this is where, like, gun control crosses into like a really uncomfortable territory for some. But there's a high correlation between like Hollywood power types and the political elite that are calling for those gun control laws and steps, measures.
Well, yeah. Well, the political elite use Hollywood as their propaganda talking pieces.
When you start like looking at where they overlap in the Venn diagrams, it becomes to a point where you end up saying things like libtard that mean nothing.
Yeah. And
because
we also
have to say libtard because honestly, if you say what it is, you immediately get accused of being anti-Semitic. And
I don't buy into that. I don't buy into that Jewish mafia controls Hollywood.
I would say that the Jewish mafia controls Hollywood, and I would say that the Jewish mafia pushes gun control the hardest in the United States.
Maybe in yesteryear, but
that's indisputable.
All right. Well, let's. I do know that Hollywood is now. China has purchased.
Yeah, all right. So now, see, this is an interesting subject right here, right? It's a very interesting segue because you can't talk about Hollywood being like some sort of like Jewish mafia, but now it's okay to say something. China's all over the place. What the hell? Oh my God! I can't believe all these Chinese people in movies. But 2 years ago, if you'd have said Jesus H. Christ, what the hell? How are they making a Jewish Superman?
Right.
But now that they got Chinese people all over the place, we could absolutely call that out.
Well,
that's beyond like soft bigotry or anything.
Well, it's fact. I mean, if you go on Google, you can look it up. The Chinese firms and companies
they got the money, but who? But it'd be almost anti-Semitic to mention who sold to these Chinese companies.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, sure. I'm sure. Listen, there's Jewish-owned studios, and there's Jewish-owned executives and stuff like that, like our good friend Harvey Weinstein.
Absolutely.
But
is.
But why I say Chinese? China.
I mean, seriously, like, do you think that anybody in their right mind actually pays attention to something like Seth Rogen or Sarah Silverman? I mean, it's nothing but dick jokes and poop jokes, and in Sarah Silverman's case, like how she's going to stick a crucifix in some place that can't be mentioned right here.
Right.
Listen. That has to get like to a country that is, I would say, overwhelmingly of the Christian faith. How do you get this small percentage of not particularly attractive people like pushing that, and that becomes like the cultural norm? Absolutely, they're controlling the whole goddamn game. I mean, it's beyond insulting to say they're not.
Right.
I mean, it's like an assault on like intelligence.
Right. Well, Michael Savage.
It's absolutely uncomfortable to say it because people, if you control how people talk.
Yes. Well, Michael Savage explained it. He said Hollywood and basically our culture used to be run out of New York City, Madison Avenue and so on. But now in the last 10, 15 years, it has shifted, and now our culture is being run out of San Francisco.
Possibly Los Angeles, yeah. But I mean, it doesn't really matter like the location.
Well, no, but you see the shift. You see the shift
wherever that population flows to.
You see the shift. It used to be, TV used to be basically, conservative, the mom and pop, and the nuclear family, American values, and now it has shifted 180, and that's the culture. But anyway. That yes, you are right. These late night talk show hosts, they are the propaganda arms of the Democratic Party, the Communist Party, and
they're Bolsheviks.
Yes. And you see, they can have.
In my mind, we're entering a period. I mean, just by looking at like current events and how things stack out, played against historical situations, but we're like 1923 Germany. I mean, we're nearly in a situation where our dollar is about to be turned into toilet paper, no matter how good they say the economy is right now. And the economy is improving, but all it takes is China to pull the goddamn lever, and Johnny Greenback goes, into a coma.
Yeah, yes, but you know why? You know why that's not going to happen? Because we're the biggest customers of China.
But it doesn't matter. China has all the machinery. At some point, our cheap Chinese shit that we have tons of is going to break as it was designed to.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be in a bad situation because China has all the machines.
Yeah, but we buy all their stuff. We're their biggest customer. They need us their economy relies on us. That's why they that's why they kiss our ass.
Until they amass enough gold and enough real property to where they don't care about the dollar anymore. The dollar doesn't matter. And there's plenty of countries out there that really don't appreciate the dollar. And I'll tell you what, if you don't appreciate the dollar, you will get a knock at your front door from the United States Marines. And you can ask Saddam that, or you can ask Gaddafi that.
Yeah,
because
right.
Both of them guys messed with the money train before they got the short end of the stick.
And let's not mention Putin, Vladimir Putin. He is at the forefront of what you just said, gold, where he wants. It's called BRIC, where they want.
Brazil, Russia, India, China, and I think they were trying to get South Korea into it, but South Korea won't.
Right. That's why. And for anyone listening, I think that's why there's this backlash and vitriol towards Putin because of that, what I just mentioned. But now we get back to the conspiracy of why we say gun control. But these people, they know that people aren't buying it, and we're not going to abolish the Second Amendment. They know that. What I think they are trying for is to trick the feeble-minded into voting Democrat, because you notice they say it's the Republicans.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if they vote Democrat or Republican because they both work for the same end. If you take a look at either the Democrat or the Republican Party, and you look at the top 10 donors, at least 7 of them to each of the Democrat and the Republican Party are going to be the same exact company and people.
Right. Well, listen, what I did learn, and it was reaffirmed from this past election, presidential election last year, people say, votes don't matter, it doesn't matter. No, our vote matters because these people will do anything to get a vote. So I think votes still matter, and I think this presidential
votes matter because votes are the best paint you can put on rust. Okay,
but listen, the votes still matter. Last year, the presidential election, those votes still mattered, and you saw how close the election was. So I think the Democrats are pushing to get Democratic votes because you notice when they say gun control, then they always throw in, it's the GOP, it's the Republicans. They vote for this, they support the NRA, and they want to demonize the Republicans. And
we'll take a look at something where like the instant demonization. All right, so like you had mentioned, Hollywood and Harvey Weinstein and all that, and that's really none of my concern, to be honest with you, because I don't watch any kind of movies really. But I did notice that I know who he is. I know that he's a great big, huge, influential Democratic supporter. And I'm not getting tied up in the left-right politics or anything.
Oh yeah, and it's been now reported that he made numerous visits to the Obama White House.
14 or 15 or so. But I found it to be very interesting. Well, here he is giving his pseudo apology for his behavior, but at the same time he's apologizing for his rampant and distasteful and just frankly disgusting behavior. He decides to say he's going to focus all the energy he was using to rape and molest women, that he's going to refocus that energy on the NRA, and he's going to have some kind of big blockbuster opening at the place where he had his bar mitzvah. Jesus H. Christ, if that's not like some kind of declaration of war, I don't know.
Yeah, and you see, there will be feeble-minded people out there who'll say, "Oh, okay, see, he'll go after the NRA. They're evil, and automatically they'll forget his atrocities." But okay, so now we said why, and who does it benefit? And let's not forget, Now, I forgot the company that produces the body scanners at airports, and now
that would be Michael Chertoff, the former head of Homeland Security.
Right.
Chertoff is a Russian word that means son of the devil. Michael Chertoff is also tied in super tight with the Israelis and the Jewish lobby in the United States. This is where I start having the problem where you can't talk about it because you start seeing these common denominators everywhere. And honestly, there's no other connection between somebody like Michael Chertoff, who was seriously, he was a member of the Bush administration. You know, I mean, it don't get any more right wing than that. I mean, for Christ's sakes, there was a TV show. Do you remember on Comedy Central called "Where's My Bush"? And it was some dopey George Bush impersonator getting into like all kinds of crazy madcap adventures and stuff. I mean, so you can't go from any further on the left than making fun of like the hated Bush administration and going any further to the right where you got the head of Homeland Security for the Bush administration meeting somewhere. That's what I'm talking about, this common denominator. It's always that one damn thing. Every time, dude. I mean, you can go back and look at the very first efforts at gun control in the United States, and seriously, what was the percentage of the population back then that identified with this certain demographic? And you'll find that the name on that very first serious gun control effort in the United States in 1934 is Eugene Zeller, who is not an Irishman. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I mean, it gets ugly to the point to where you talk about it and you're immediately labeled an anti-Semite. But I mean, you're an idiot if you're ignoring the facts. The facts are there; they're staring you in the face, except for from like sundown on Friday till sundown on Saturday.
Yeah. So that this is the benefit, and who profits from this is if they want to install body scanners at casinos. They want to do it now. They're going to probably do this at football stadiums.
Who benefits from disarming people who are somewhat fed up with the system? Because honestly, if you're going to disarm Americans, you're not going to disarm the criminals. The criminals they're criminals. They don't follow laws in the first place. So you can make murder double illegal and put on $1 billion penalty for having every gun. They're not going to comply with it.
Yeah, listen, that's never going to happen.
Paul America, and they will turn in that gun because, well, that's what the law says to do.
I don't think that's ever going to happen. The people are too woke. There's over 300 million guns in the United States. They're not going to go house to house and confiscate because then you'll really see a revolution.
They'll run out of people real fast.
Yeah, the idea is it's the idea to demonize gun owners just so they could install security measures. See, they create the problem and then they offer you the solution. And they make money from it. That's where I think this whole thing is. And
then you also have to look at who benefits in the end when you got like this massive rush. Like all right, straight up, I pay attention to the firearms market. And right now, an AR-15 with the bump stock is one of them highly sought after items that usually occurs after every one of these things. And right now, I've seen an ad there's a company called ATI, which is a German company. They make a polymer framed lower, and usually these are lower end items. It's kind of a cheaper way to do it. So it's a cheap, pieced together, home built AR-15. I mean, it's completely legal, but he's got a bump fire stock on it. Now, that bump fire stock 2 weeks ago cost $99. That rifle he's got put together ain't any more than $350 in parts. Add in, 2 hours of that guy's time at $100 an hour, and you still got less than $700 in that thing. Right now, that rifle's going for $2,100.
Right. Let me read this paragraph from this article. It says, the two men in question, Michael Chertoff and Sheldon Anderson, are certainly powerful men with a history of shady financial and government dealings. If you're going to pick two people who would simply have
Dude, I'm telling you, we go with another common denominator because Sheldon Adelson is like the greatest like Israeli backer in the United States. He's the guy who wants us to like launch missiles at Iran right now.
Of course.
Who benefits? Jeez.
So it says, if you were going to pick two people who would simply have the connections and resources to arrange an incident like the one in Vegas, you couldn't cast a better pair. Let's keep in mind, though, it is not like these two were called out to fit the narrative only after the fact, but rather singled out weeks at a time, of course, because they have stock and interest in these body scanners, and it's a big business. Listen, look at after 9/11, all the body scanners sold, all the security measures, security cameras, and security devices.
Yeah, but it's not only money, man. Because honestly,
and it's control. It's control.
It's about acclimating people to you are no longer free in a free society.
Right. And people trade their freedom for security, false security, which is no matter what happens, there's always going to be a slip up. There's always going to be a hole. Just like Jimmy Kimmel, the idiots, even he admitted it on his monologue that the man, the alleged Stephen Paddock, he bought his guns legally. There was nothing that could have came up to as a red flag. If you have a ticking time bomb, a mentally ill person, no amount of security is going to stop somebody from carrying out a mass killing. Whether you take away the guns, look at France, they'll use a truck to kill 86 people.
Shit, dude, there was a mass stabbing in China. Some dude went crazy with a steak knife, and he killed 33 people and injured like 130 before they take him down. That's a dude with a knife. Yeah, I know that guys are short and spry and all that, but that's impressive numbers. Right there.
Could you imagine some semi-skilled guy with a samurai sword going through a crowd of people and just making chopped meat out of everybody?
Okay, so. At that point, now you got this well-armed dude with the samurai sword, and he's skilled and all that, slicing people up left, right, center. How do you stop that dude?
Oh, a gun.
Absolutely.
Only a good guy with a gun can stop a bad guy with a gun. You want to talk about the media?
Just remember, when you need a cop, or what is it? When danger is seconds away, a cop is only a couple minutes behind.
Right. Yeah, that's another thing. People there's a misconception about the police. The police are not there to protect you, the citizen.
The police work for the corporation, man. The police are there.
Yeah, the police
there to collect revenue and make sure that the system don't.
The police are there to enforce the law. Yeah, there's a guy shooting. He's ruining a casino. He's killing people. He's breaking the law. They're not there necessarily to protect you.
Oh, absolutely not. No, they're there to protect the casino, and especially in some place like Las Vegas. I don't know if you've ever been to Vegas, but Vegas is an interesting town. It's as a visitor there, you feel intensely safe walking around. Even with its massive number of vagrants and homeless people that are like in the Las Vegas central area, because there are cops everywhere, and those cops do not screw with anybody unless they commit some kind of like infraction inside a casino. Right. And then when they deal with that guy, everybody sees them deal with him, and there's no screwing around, and nobody messes with tourists. If somebody local messes with the tourist, the cops jump that dude like.
Right, because they're protecting the interest and the profits of the casinos.
Absolutely. So, I mean, the benefit to this, in the end, I think like the money thing is
and control. It's
scary concern. It's the control, and they have to eliminate the common man's way to, if nothing else, feel secure.
Right.
Because
there's always a boogeyman. There's always a boogeyman around the corner. After 9/11, there was always a terrorist under your bed. Look out. There could be a terrorist under your bed. See something, say something.
And something else I think that like that focus has shifted from, the terrorist that's wearing, a burqa or whatever the hell they wear, to now we've seen like the last two big events have been done by a white male.
Yeah, that's what they're pushing. Now they're telling you And this was if
And well, I'll tell you what, that's to me, that's the scariest thing.
it's not only the white male, it's the white.
They've changed the demographic, and that demographic that they look to be concentrating on are people that, number one, may have a tendency to have been in the military and experienced combat sometime in the past.
Right.
Number two, they remember what shit was like before, we were in, today's threat level is orange.
Oh, yeah. The color code, orange and red. It's always red.
Right. So there are people who remember that. Those are the ones who are most likely to fight. They're not worried about 19-year-olds and 21-year-olds and 23-year-olds fighting because, honestly, they've now lived their entire life under, a post 9/11 world.
Oh yeah, they're very domesticated. They don't know.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think that we can't domesticate a people, take a look at the Japanese, dude. In 70 years, we turned them from sons of samurais to dudes that are obsessed with Hello Kitty. Do not fuck with the money machine because we will absolutely destroy your descendants.
Yeah, and eating a scat.
Absolutely. I mean, just some of the most sick and I guess it's like a corruption of what really runs a society. A society is kind of like an extension of your family, right? It's like you almost got to look at it's a group of families coming together as a family to provide for common interest, defense, and resources and whatever. And if you can start eroding that family at the basic level, soon you've eroded the entire society, and then you can ride in and do whatever you want to do.
It's social engineering, and there's big, massive, dark, secret social experiments being carried out on willing.
I don't even think they're dark and secret. I mean, straight up honest, Joseph Stalin said, I don't remember the year, but he said, look, America's strength is threefold. It's morality, it's patriotism, and it's spirituality. If they can come in and undermine those three, this place will fall. It will crumble without a shot being fired.
Right. They crumble.
Now we go to Sarah Silverman live licking a dog's asshole.
Oh boy. That's insane. But yes, the new face of terror is not only the white male; it's the white conservative Christian male.
Right. Even though that the proof is coming out that neither of the two shooters. All right, so the guy who shot up the congressional baseball game, he was totally lefty Bernie bro kind of thing.
Yeah, that guy never picked up a Bible in his life.
Right, and then this Vegas shooter, I've seen several pictures of this guy wearing one of the pink pussy hats with a "Dump Trump" sign.
Yeah, allegedly he was at an anti-Trump rally in Vegas. I don't know if that's him. Maybe it was him because in the video it could be heard that the woman is saying, "Hey Stephen, hey Stephen." But we have a few minutes left. I want to touch, since we talked about the media and how there's little mention of this. 2 weeks ago, I believe, there was also barely a mention about this the black Sudanese immigrant who shot up.
How much coverage did that get? That got about 6 hours on Sunday.
Yeah. The New York Times had the story on page 14.
No shit.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw page.
Okay, so 14. How long was the Dylan Roof thing in the page? Fucking hey, dude, that was the reason why they had to take the Dukes of Hazzard off of TV.
Yeah. Just hours after Dylan Roof did the shooting, they had his bio. They had his manifesto. They had pictures of him with Confederate flags, Nazi stuff. Oh, he had it. They had his whole history. They even knew what he ate for lunch 2 weeks ago. Right.
And what do we get with unnamed male from an undisclosed location has possibly done something to something at a church? We'll be back later.
Right. Ed, here's the ice. Here's the cherry on top of the cake. That black immigrant Sudanese shooter who shot up the white church, who took him down? A gun owner.
Dude, a dude with a concealed weapon permit. Now you also have to just also marvel at the fact that the dude in the process of trying to shoot up everybody in the church shot himself. That takes skill. I mean, that's like That's like trying to just get them bonus points.
Right. So look at that. Look how that fit. That shooting went against all the narratives. You had a black African Sudanese immigrant shooting up a white church. A mass shooting.
And that's why it got zero coverage.
Right. And the kicker was he was stopped and killed by a white legal gun owner.
Absolutely, at a church.
At a church. So again, anybody listening, go Google it. The New York Times had the story on page 14. Not a mention of it.
That's just filthy. But you know what? In the end, the New York Times were the people who covered up the Ukrainian Holodomor. You know, what was it like almost 12 million Ukrainians were starved to death in like a year and a half's time, and like the New York Times was printing stories about the wonder of Uncle Joe's playground.
Yeah. The New York Times is, like Trump says, is the failing Times. It's owned by one of the richest men in the world, Mexican Carlos Slim.
Yeah, Mexican of Russian extraction. Carlos Slim ain't all that Mexican.
Right.
I mean, I got to do something. I do this every show. I got to do the 4 rules of firearm safety because we're still off center of the firearm show. First rule of firearm safety is every firearm is loaded until you visually and physically inspect and ensure that firearm is not loaded. Rule number 2 is keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction. Do not cover anything with the muzzle that you do not wish to destroy. Rule number 3 is know what your target is, know what's beyond your target at all times. And the most important rule probably should be the first rule, but we say it at the end for dramatic effect. Keep the booger hook off the bang switch until you're ready to discharge the firearm. There are no accidental discharges. There are only negligent discharges in that situation. And do not give these sons of bitches who are doing everything they can to take away your firearms any more ammunition than they already have.
Yes, 1776.
1776 or 5.56, one of the two, man.
Yes.
7.62 will work as well. That works usually a little bit better, makes a little bit bigger hole.
Right. So, Michael, we have almost about less than 2 minutes left. This was great. I enjoyed being your co-host on PrimerTime.
Appreciate it, man. This was a lot of fun, and kind of got to maybe talk about stuff that we don't normally talk about or whatever. But yeah, this was cool.
Yes.
I'm glad to see that people who are in a completely geographically opposite position of me have questions about this New York thing or this Las Vegas thing.
Right. And
if a guy in New York who's got, well, I mean, honestly, you guys have a lot more sports and more like visually attractive things to keep you distracted. If a guy in New York sees that, and a dude who lives down here where I don't even have cable TV down here, maybe this whole thing does stink. Maybe this is worth looking at a hell of a lot closer. Start looking at inconsistencies and similarities to other inconsistencies in other shootings.
Right. There's many of us all over the country, and we are the last resistance. So, and I just want to remind the audience tomorrow night at 8 p.m. live spam, and Michael will guest, and I'll ask him some more questions.
I'm totally looking forward to it.
Yes.
I got to the firearms. I'm telling you, the whole firearms aspect of this thing is just really funky because it doesn't match with what they're saying. Okay. It really the pure physics of the whole thing doesn't match with what they're saying, and that Instagram of the 2 different guns going off at the same time, that nails it shut for me. There is no way in hell that this thing isn't.
Tomorrow night we'll focus on the gun, the sounds, the echoes, to see if that could play into it. So, Michael, I think the music's gonna hit any second. Thank you, and I'm gonna talk to you tomorrow night. Okay, pal?
All right, man. I appreciate it. I want to give a shout out to Jules, and
yes,
she really puts her life. So if you got a couple seconds,
Patriot